podcast, episode
20.
Episode 20.
You did it.
And we did it. 20 episodes in is a lot of episodes, dude.
It is a lot of
Apologize
episodes.
to everybody right now again for the fact that I have allergies right now, and if I'm sniffling, I'm so fucking sorry. I can't help it.
Those histamines come back around.
You know, this is my cross to bear. Yeah. Episode 20. 20 episodes in. Things are crazy. I am not out on an island right now. I am out on a continent.
You are. Where are you?
I'm in Denver, Colorado right now. I needed to take a trip for my mental health, so here I am doing that.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's, it's good. It's a long way away from anything that is bumming me out, and I really needed that. So I am happily accepting it for what it is. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. There's a couple. Yeah. So a while ago you were like, oh, you took a new job, and I was like, at least you take things that you get paid for, and you were like, yeah, I do, or something. And it's because I sign up for all this shit that is like free. It's like training or volunteering or whatever. Anyway, I got accepted into this cohort for like 200 women. It was data science for all, and we didn't think our project was very good, but whatever. Our project won most distinguished project.
Cool.
Yeah. So it was in the top 5 projects, which means we're going to have to like present at some annual thing or whatever. But we just examined like the socioeconomic impacts on maternal mortality. So we got interested in it, right? Because the reversal of Roe v. Wade really puts different restrictions on bodily autonomy. And we were wondering how that's going to impact like, states with really high maternal mortality anyways. We didn't actually get to do that sort of future prediction model, which is what we were hoping for, but we did learn a lot, and we're in the top 5. So
cool.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
To you and your cohort.
Yeah, my little team of people, we did things. It was really cool. We're in the official waiting period to get our visa, our permanent residence stuff for Norway. So
Have you heard anything about it, or are you just still waiting for an answer? Or?
That's a great question. So we got notified that we got packages, like, because you have to pay for the shipping up front. And we were like, what's going to be in these packages? We were so excited. And, it could have been anything. Anyway, it didn't include our permanent residence approval or denial. It just said that that'll come via email, and it was all of our original documents returned. So yeah. So I got my passport. He got back his collection of photos. We got our marriage certificate back, all that kind of stuff.
I guess, that's good though. At least that means the wheels are turning.
Yeah. We got an email that said that if we don't get approved in the next 30 days, we're going to get new case numbers. It just is going to take as long as it takes. It can take up to 4 months, which we're really hoping it takes less than that.
Yeah, sure. What a big life thing to just be waiting around to see if it happens or when it happens. Yeah,
it's kind of crazy. So that's what's going on with me.
Good. Those are all good things. At least you're just waiting on something cool to happen.
Yeah, but it's not like that existential waiting where we're not doing anything about it, where it's just like, what will happen to me? I don't know. Have you read any existential literature like Waiting for Godot or Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead?
I have not.
Okay. There are these plays that are just basically about talking about what existentialism is, and it's just like 2 dudes standing around having a conversation, and literally nothing happens. They just keep talking about what, might happen, like the possibility of happening.
Sure.
I don't know.
Nope, that kind of stuff turns my brain to shit. Honestly, my natural MO in life is to be overly existential, like, all the time. And that's like the reason I can't do drugs, like I can't smoke pot, because like I'll turn into like an existential mess, or like I can't watch the news. You know what I mean? Like, and I can't like do all of these things because I'm just like, oh my god, humanity. Like, even walking down the street and seeing like trash lying on the street, I'm like, oh fuck, we're all doomed. There's no way we're going to be able to turn this around. And like I start getting into like this whole thing on like what it means to be like a human animal, and like it's too much, too goddamn existential. I need less existentialism in my life, if anything.
Yeah, less existentialism is good. Do you have any news to report, like good news or news stories or anything? I know you've been super busy this.
Yeah, I haven't really been looking too much because I've been traveling and just kind of like running around so that I could travel. Mostly it was just like getting my house in line for like the 2 weeks that I was going to be gone. So it was like a lot of like running here nor there, here or there, not nor there.
I know what
Cool.
that's like for sure.
Yeah, my brain is really scattered, and I'm also 4 hours ahead of what you right now. So like my schedule's confusing. But here, this is a piece of good news. This week in history. Let's do it this week in history. Why the fuck
Okay.
not? This week in history, 1775, oxygen was discovered for the first time. In 2017, the first white giraffe was found, and Neil Armstrong was born August 5th, 1930. And then other things happen, but who cares?
I like that these things happen. Like oxygen was discovered, right? But to know like the exact date that oxygen was discovered is like so crazy. So I
Yeah.
would never think
Yeah, I've
about
never
that.
even thought about it. Yeah, exactly. Do you have any news you want to talk about? Anything going on in Hawaii that matters?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So, one of the big things I guess, so to bring back Red Hill again, they've been doing a whole bunch of tests out there, and the water utility said that it detected petroleum contamination beyond Red Hill, beyond the Red Hill property. It was found in a monitoring well in Honolulu, like way far away. I'll post a link to the article, but it's like the chemicals they found are cancer causing,
Sure.
and so like that's like a huge problem. And then by the time this episode airs, everyone in Hawaii should have mailed in their ballots.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to vote in the election. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about too is that there's a super PAC trying to defeat one of the lieutenant governor candidates and like boost their candidate. And so they've spent almost $4 million in ads, like attack ads against Sylvia Luke.
I've
Which is
seen those attack ads.
it's so crazy. Like why? Like I don't know. Attack ads don't get me. I'm not into like talking shit or being negative about people. Like just really kind of say what you do well. Attack ads are really kind of like they feel like a political tactic of the past.
They're also like stupid, right? Just by nature, because it's like, yeah, I mean, this is a smear campaign. Like, obviously, you're trying to shit on your opponent to like boost your own candidate. So, like, why the fuck would I believe anything that you're saying? Like,
Right.
you know, especially with how dramatic they make them. Like, I've seen some of these like smear campaigns, and like, by the way, in this election, I have seen quite a lot of them beyond like the candidacy of a lieutenant governor, you know. So like it was really mind-blowing. I was like watching, I don't know, like ABC or something the other day when I was at a friend's house, and like 5 of them came on in a row.
Ew.
Yeah, and I mean, BJ Penns are the funniest. Those are kind of enjoyable to watch because they're just so fucking silly. The rest of them are like, Jesus Christ, guys. Like you would just expect, or I guess you would hope that the people running would be more educated and like just, you know, above running smear campaigns on their opponents, but that's not America. So fuck me, I don't know.
No,
Whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
My one of my friends just got like her son he's a cakey, like he's like in elementary or middle school. Like if he's in middle school, he's barely in middle school. And so she got him his very first cell phone and everything was going fine until he gets like this ad addressed to someone named Peter as a text message, like from BJ Penn's campaign.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, so she's really happy that she saw it. But like right now, there are no do not call or block lists for text messages. Like it's, legal for people to just scam text and,
Sure.
political text and everything. And just keep that in mind that the only way to stop getting spam and scam texts is to just block them. And if it's a list, like that is definitely a number on a list, like unsubscribe. Yeah, I'm really proud of her for not like yelling at them like in a text, like this phone belongs to you. Like I'm proud that that didn't happen, but it's just messed up. Like you should have to re-sign up for those things because like even I got BJ Penn is a Republican candidate and I am not a Republican, yet I got an email from his campaign that's like, don't forget to donate and vote for BJ Penn. And I was
Yeah.
like, unsubscribe.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, scam numbers in general are just like really bizarre. Like the internet definitely made like internet calling made like spoof calls, like spoof numbers really prevalent. And so like I in the last week have received 2 calls from Ireland.
What?
Yeah, and like I just immediately block them. Like I know that I'm not getting a call from anyone in Ireland, you know what I mean? Like I mean, I just don't want to fucking talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I hear one more fucking dumbass person try to sell me insurance or something over the fucking phone. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Get out of here with that shit. I got shit to do. You should get a better job. I don't know. The point is, they're stupid. Scam calls are stupid. Scam texts are definitely stupid. And BJ Penn is stupid. I'm just gonna put that out there. Hot take. Hot takes.
Great segue for our episode today. I don't even know what to do with that. But yeah, we're going to be talking about punk rock hot takes today, and I guess we'll start with that one. Or just use that as the segue. It's a great segue.
Yeah, it was really just a stepping stone, a springboard to get us into our conversation today. Before we start, we're gonna do the land acknowledgement though. I'm on somebody else's stolen land right now, but
Yeah, it'd be
we
really cool to know whose land that is, actually.
yeah, it would be, but that's more work than I'm gonna do right now, but maybe we'll put it in the show
In the show
notes.
notes, yeah.
But yeah, generally we're based on the Big Island of Hawaii. The state of Hawaii was annexed by the Dole Provisional Government in 1893, and we have been blowing it ever since. And you can find our formal land acknowledgement on our website.
Yep, out on an island podcast.com.
Cool, we did it. Hot takes.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess I'll start. One of the biggest, I guess, at me the most in punk rock is conservatism is the new punk rock.
Yeah, that one's been circulating quite a bit, and especially when you have like punk rock figureheads like Johnny Rotten, who are also getting a lot of publicity right now because like, television can't do anything but make like biopics anymore. Like
I think that's another hot take because I'm like, disagree.
Put a pin in it. We'll circle back around. But that is like a really big issue that's coming up. Like and this is like something that you see really often though, where like when people become so far left that they're basically right.
Yeah.
It gets really intense. Like to be so like anti, like what's a good example for this?
Spirit science, David Avocado Wolf. So people on the left, I'm like, I got to.
All right, come in.
People who believe that you can cleanse like your diseases with the moon and you can pray away like anything, and like it's so far left that like it might as well just be right. I mean, like it's so far left in that it's spiritual. It's not like Christianity per se, but like, and then that whole school of thought has things like you start getting into the territory of like women's work is in the home, which is like a conservative value, but it's like, women need to be focusing their spiritual energy on like healing their home and
Okay.
healing, yeah, stuff like that.
That's annoying. I don't like any of that.
Yeah,
Um,
the left has their crazies too, like
oh, for sure. I think that like anti-vaxxers are a really good example of people who are so fucking far left that they may as well just be right. Because when you get into like that whole sect of like the left, especially like the ones who are like particularly spiritual, then you get really into like this weird realm of like, I'm not putting anything unnatural in my body. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And like, sure, that's your choice to make, I suppose. But like when you do things like send your kids to public school, you should get your kids vaccinated. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you have to, unless you get a religious exemption, and those exemptions only exist for people who don't believe in abortion, because there's a whole line of vaccines that were made from stem cells of aborted fetuses. We're not still using aborted fetuses for vaccines today, to be clear, but there are like permutations that were originated from that first line of, I think it was a polio vaccine. I'll put it in the show notes for sure. That's why the religious exemption exists, because they were like, I don't believe in abortion, and I definitely don't want to put aborted fetus cells in my body. That's the only reason this exists.
there's a lot of other reasons why crazy people don't want vaccines happening too. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the government, they control us. I thought about this while I was brushing my teeth today. This is going to a weird place, but like I was using my toothpaste and I was like, yeah, the government
The
controls my
fluoride.
thoughts with fluoride. Of course they do.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's logical and a good thing to fucking spend your day talking about, right? Like, or thinking about, or like, what a weird, I mean, the amount of energy that goes, and like, the thing that's really funny about it is like, it seems more like it happens out of the spirit of being a contrarian than it does anything else. Like, I don't really know if when you believe in such ridiculous conspiracies like that, if you are actually like dedicated to that belief or if you just like being special
Yeah,
or
well,
like
I
feeling
think
enlightened,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
think that's where the conservatism is the new punk rock kind of comes from, is just to be contrarian. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, unless it is that like you're an old white dude and you don't like other people having like voices or, power or,
Yeah.
like you literally feel threatened, and conservatism is a way to like consolidate like that power that you once had and like retain it. I mean, like those are the only two ways I really see it, to be contrarian or to like keep something that you feel you're desperately like in need of clinging to because other people are having voices.
Yeah, I mean it really comes down to like this thing where it's like you're so nonconformist that like you're a fascist, you know? And
Yeah.
that's like what the ideology behind like conservatism as the new punk rock is like being so fucking hyper like anti-conformist that like you've just become a fascist. But like we've seen that like throughout punk rock history, like time and time again, where you get these people who anytime you like punk rock, you always get like the person who's trying to police punk rock and tell you like what punk rock is or like how you're not punk enough or like what true punk is the most irritating one, as if it's like this this like nirvana kind of thing that like you have to like work really hard to achieve or something.
Yeah,
Like it's
not
really
Nirvana the
strange.
band, Nirvana the belief.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it reminds me of Plato's realm of the forms. So sure, maybe there is some sort of pure, unattainable ideal of what this thing is supposed to be, but there is no way we could ever achieve that, like working
yeah.
toward that. But also, like, it was made by people and it is messy as fuck. Like, yeah.
I mean, I think that's like a good way to like roll into like my next hot take here for punk rock. Punching Nazis isn't that cool. You know what I mean? Like Nazis fucking suck. Yeah, for sure. And there's like a lot of reasons why like I understand that violence towards like these really shitty people seems like a really good idea, but like the whole like trend that was coming out about like punching Nazis, like I kind of feel weird about that. I feel like that's not really like, I don't really want to inflict warfare on anybody, and I really don't want to give anybody reasons to like retaliate with like violent warfare either, right? So it's like, it seems really counterproductive, I think is the word that I'm trying to find. Like, you don't, like, fighting fire with fire is a stupid way. Then you just end up with everything on fire.
Yeah, I think there was a time where I would have definitely disagreed with you. But after we talked about like Chris Rock and the slap and like hearing, my mister's perspective on that whole thing, which we talked a little bit about, and like just doing the movie episode, right? We see how things have gone horribly awry. Like if you are prepared to fight someone, something bad is going to happen. Like,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
yeah, so to be a part of that, okay, so but like what do then we do with the Nazis, right? Because ignoring them doesn't work. They are still here, but you cannot eradicate Nazis from the planet because Nazism and all of that ideology is a belief, right? And
Yeah.
beliefs get passed down, and someone is going to believe that belief that like Black and brown people, women, indigenous folks, like whatever, like Jewish people, like do not deserve to exist. And you can't get rid of those ideas, like unless you teach it out of people.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that my take on this is really just that the idea of like punching somebody in the face for believing something, no matter how fucking stupid it is, like, obviously if that person believes something stupid in the fucking first place, they're a stupid person, you know what I mean? Like, and so you like inflicting primal violence on them as a result of like your belief system is not going to make them change their mind. It's only going to make them conform harder to their belief and then martyr themselves in their opinion, right? So it's like, I don't see like where it's productive. Like, it's not productive. Like, sure, I get the catharsis value in it because sure, it's very cathartic. And yeah, we all like seeing Nazis get punched, for sure, I get it. But like, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a productive and like positive way to enforce change at all. And like I said, all it does is like make them more apt to want to fight back. So then you got somebody who's angry and stupid and has a vendetta also.
Which is a winning combination.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a segue into my next one, and I think there isn't one. Just spoilers. It's 99% of pop punk bands are just boy bands with distortion.
I believe that.
Yeah, I would say that 99, like that's a 99% for sure, especially when we talked about that bifurcation period. I think, okay, so I guess one that goes along with that is Green Day's early stuff is gold. So
Okay.
yeah, which I know you firmly disagree with, but like I like 1001 Slap Happy Hours, and like Dookie is very like diverse, and so I see Blink 182 and Green Day as like the grandfathers of pop punk, or like the fathers of pop punk, right? Because we talked about how it goes back to the 80s and stuff, but I would classify them at some point as pop punk for sure. I wouldn't consider them boy bands with distortion, though. That definitely to me comes more applicable in like 99, 2000, like those kinds of bands that came out.
Yeah.
All of that is literally.
I mean, I agree with that, except for like the fact that like if you take pop punk back before Green Day and Blink 182 and all of that stuff, like you got like the Ramones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Grandfathers.
Yeah. I mean, founding fathers, arguably. You know what I mean? But like, the fact of the matter is that like they, by definition and definitely by like behavior, were kind of a boy band. Like, they had a movie made about them. Like, they were the fucking Spice Girls or something. You know what I mean? Like,
shout it to the world.
they had like fucking, I mean, they were very, very popular and they were teenage icons. And so like, I could see the parallels drawn like between them and like, you know, the bubblegum pop punk boys of, or I'm sorry, not pop punk, but like bubblegum, like pop boys of like the 90s, like Backstreet Boys and that kind of stuff. Because like that fame is essentially the same thing. You just are representative of like a different part of culture.
Demographic, yeah.
Yeah. So like, and then even like Blink-182 and like stuff like that, like, I mean, yeah, they were on the cover of magazines. They were, you know, like I had a Blink-182 poster, I think at some point, you know what I mean? Like I feel like, yeah, that's absolutely not inaccurate. They were definitely doing the boy band thing. They just appealed to a different demographic. Yeah, exactly. But like, regardless, like still like 12-year-old girls and like, you know, like just
I would say,
edgier
yeah,
ones.
14, you know,
I was really young when I
whatever.
was listening to them. Like, I feel like, you know, but still, like underage, underage kids for sure. You know, I would argue that like the fact that that culture took off like wildfire in the 2000s with like those really poppy pop punk bands like Simple Plan and Good Charlotte and stuff was definitely because there was a market for them that was made by Blink-182 and by
Yeah.
Green Day. And like, let's talk about when Green Day like made their resurgence in the 2000s with like their American Idiot phase, where like everything was like wearing suits and ties, and or like not even suits and ties, just like collared shirts and ties, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And like eyeliner and shit. Like,
Yeah, that was actually a concept album that was made to be a musical. And like while they were producing the musical, like I know someone died at Spider-Man the musical, so that's why that didn't get it. But I don't remember what happened during American Idiot, the production of American Idiot, but something happened to like stop it from going to Broadway. But that was like the point of American Idiot, was to
sure.
tell like this punk rock story,
But
which Fat Mike actually did later with Home Street Home, but it was in San Francisco. It didn't actually make it to Broadway. But
yeah, I mean, all of that information aside, though, like, regardless of the fact when they made that resurgence, like, they still, like, put on, like, this very new, like, look and, like,
mhm.
face, and they all had, like, this very, like, uniform, like, situation happening. They were definitely buying into, like, the pop punk, like, fashion trends of like the 2000s with like the eyeliner and the ties and the, I mean, fucking Avril Lavigne wore eyeliners and ties, you know what I mean? Like, it was definitely made for public relations. Like, that
Yeah,
was like a PR move for sure. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So like, yeah, I would argue that like that's a pretty boy band kind of move to make. Like, they were on the cover of magazines, they were on posters, they were on every fucking 12-year-old girls. I mean, especially because like American Idiot was such a palatable album for young kids. There wasn't a whole lot of swearing, there wasn't, you know what I mean, nothing intensely controversial about it other than like the base of like what I guess you could consider rebellion by being like, Americans are stupid. Like, oh, hot take, guys.
Spoilers, it's true. So yeah, and then I want to just talk about Blink 182 for a second. Okay, so yeah, I can say that I can agree with the fact that there are boy bands with distortion, but I do just want to talk about what it was like so Cheshire Cat came out before Dude Ranch. Dude Ranch was one of the big popular albums, like in I think 1997 or 96, whatever year it was released. It was like
Mhm.
quintessential listening. And like um when they made it to TRL, it was like it was, so there's two ways to look at it, right? One was like, woohoo, this is like a victory for like punk rock, but that's also what spurned like the commercialization of like pop punk to the
Mhm.
extreme that we got it in. And also it's like you know, but this isn't representative of what punk actually is, you know, so it was like this two-sided thing. I couldn't help but support these people who were like actually succeeding. Like that was kind of the moment where they like had their big breakthrough. Like it did do a lot for the community, and then it also, like, in a good way and a bad way, it helped keep like punk other punk, you know, like in a lot of ways they like took the spotlight off of punk. But I don't think it's wrong to celebrate in their successes as a win for the punk rock community. I think.
I disagree with that, but I mean, if they had come from a foundation that was like crafted on anything beyond like just like dick jokes and like all of these things, like sure, I would like support that win, but like all they did was capitalize on the fact that like teenagers like to hear curse words and like stuff like that, like, and they were just like drunk dumb teenagers making that music. And like I would like to also put another hot take in here. Tom DeLonge's voice was the worst fucking thing I've ever like anybody's ever done to music. And I mean, you know, like it was just the most watered down, just like overtly stupid like version. It was like the Jackass of like, you know what I mean, where it's like,
no, I don't. Because
like,
they have some amazing love songs and breakup songs and songs about family trauma too. Like it's
yeah, I mean, but any teenager can write an amazing love song, breakup song, or song about family trauma. Like I just don't think that they did anything that was like monumental to gain their fame, except the fact that they happened to be three good-looking boys who capitalized on the fact that they, yeah, I mean, all of their posters, like when we were young, they were like all in their boxers and shit. Like, and that was like the funny thing because, like, oh, they're naked and they're like tattooed and like, you know, that they're so edgy. Like, and that's what they were capitalizing on, though. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't coming from, and like, also, what have they done with their money other than like Tom DeLonge trying to like build a fucking time machine or whatever the fuck he's doing now? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't, I don't see like a lot of like, it just seemed like they banked on a situation that was marketable, and sure, like more power to you for doing it, but like
yeah.
I don't think it's a win for the punk rock community. I think that if anything it's just subpar art.
Cool.
Yeah. Hot take.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's fine. We can leave it.
Yeah, I guess I kind of want to go into my next one there. It doesn't really have anything to do with pop punk so much, but like I would like to discuss the fact that like anarchy is a very misunderstood concept, like by its nature, and like the people who practice anarchy or like claim to be anarchists often have a wrong idea about like what that actually entails. And I think that it either gets viewed from the lens of like just like pure chaos and like kind of like that SLC punk way that they were like framing it, where it's like, I just don't give a fuck about anything and I don't care about anything, but like I still use all of society's like assets for like my own benefit. And like,
and my apartment is so clean and my clothes are so new and I wreck them myself. And yeah.
And like, you know, I think that, or it gets seen as like this very like kind of loose going like idea of like living on the fringes of society but like still kind of participating in it, like, and I kind of want to argue with both of those like frameworks, I guess, of anarchy, because like in my head anarchy would be like doing everything for yourself. If like you're an anarchist, like you're not going to be participating in the government at all, right? Like it's very like you aren't going to be buying things from corporations or like buying things at all, because like what is what is money, you know what I mean, like other than like the currency of like the government like that you are protesting. So like it's very confusing to me to understand the way that people justify anarchist as like a political value system, because that in itself doesn't make sense. And I know that we spoke to this a little bit in the last episode where we discussed the dichotomy, but like in my head, like, oh, an anarchist should be like making their own clothes, growing their own food, you know what I mean? Like not paying taxes, not paying,
living off grid.
Yeah, totally. And like not participating in the society that you claim that you don't agree with, you know, like if you, I just don't understand what people mean. And like I listen to a lot of bands for sure that like definitely preach like anarchist, you know what I mean, or like anarcho values. But, you know, hot take in that subject is just like, I don't really understand what we're talking about though. Like, I like the fact that like we're talking about like fuck corporations and stuff, and I'm all for that, but like I'm not gonna call myself an anarchist for that, you know?
Yeah, anarcho-punk is weird to me because it's like, first of all, I don't, because of what you mentioned, like what you already explained, like it's really confusing to me, like what people are actually talking about. And then they're using like, gear that they bought to, no one made their own guitar, no one made their
Yeah.
own amp, no
And
one
like
is
Fender is like a
distributing.
corporation. Yeah.
Yeah, and no one is distributing their own. I mean, maybe some people are distributing their own music, but then like it wouldn't reach me. So like as something, it's not even something I can support. I'm like, I don't understand you.
Yeah. I mean, and like I would love for somebody to challenge us on this and like come back with like a valid argument on why this take is incorrect in any way, but like in my head it just doesn't make any sense to like be the antithesis of something that you participate in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that. That is not a hot take from me. Like there is no debate here. um, the next one that I have is Pennywise is a band for normies and cops. And I know that you agree with this, but I look at it as
100.
a appropriation for sure. Because they were a new school band, and yeah, they made Brohem, but Brohem was made like to honor people who died in their lives, and just like to say like, oh, you'll always be here with us. Also like their self-titled album I think came out in 1994, so they did Crossroads before that. Like they're one of those bands that formed in the late 80s, and they're from Hermosa Beach, California, and like that is the trend of punk that they really embody. And um so I mean, I guess you could say that there's like surf culture in their music maybe, but like they got appropriated 100% from the punk rock community into like frat boy culture. Like, and I'm sure if you ask people, like they will only know, they'll only know Brohem. I would be hard pressed to think that people could identify more than one um Pennywise song. And if they could even name like a different album, like Brohem was on two albums, and it was on self-titled and Full Circle. Just
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's probably fair to say that like there was a big, what's the word I am looking for? Um there was definitely a point where like the college kid scene and like the SoCal pop punk scene definitely like crashed together and kind of became one thing. Pennywise definitely represents a lot of toxic masculinity as far as I'm concerned, especially with how broy they tend to be, and especially because there wasn't a whole lot of support like for anything outside of that in their music. Like it was all very like fuck authority and like rise up and like all of these things and like me and my boys and like that kind of stuff. Like sure, whatever, dude. But I think that there's a reason why that appealed to like white youth frat boys so much. You know what I mean? Like
mhm.
it basically was easy for them to identify with because it wasn't that far into like the extremes of like nonconformity. It was really palatable. I mean, and so I think that I agree with you that even if that wasn't their intention, it's definitely where it went. And I don't think that they minded the fact that the money was coming from that either, though, and like I
Yeah.
saw the F word and I know that like their lead singer or whatever is like a contractor when he's like not on tour and like good on him. You know what I mean? Like the man's
Jim
like me.
Lindbergh?
Yeah, one of them is like am I remembering that wrong?
I think so. I don't
I
know.
think one of them is like has like a day job for sure when he's like not on tour. Anyway, the point is that like, I get what you're saying, but I also get why people feel that way about Pennywise, and I don't think that Pennywise makes any moves to stop themselves from being represented that way.
No, and I wonder, like, is it because, like, what is the point of participating in that discourse? Like, it's just like, why do I have to defend my, like, that's something
Yeah.
I would totally choose to walk away from too. Like, you can think whatever you want about me and fuck off. Like, it's fine. If
Yeah.
you're
I
giving me
mean,
money, like, I don't care what you think about me.
and then that in itself is like a whole discussion to have, though,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, people are always gonna have a fucking opinion, you know?
Yeah.
Opinions are fucking assholes, right? Everyone has one.
Yeah, and like, what is it like when people decide to have book burnings or whatever, like the sales of that book skyrocket
Yeah,
because people want to
exactly.
burn the book,
Yeah, I
so
just
dumb.
saw
And
that they as a political, I guess as a political like art statement, they made a copy of the Handmaid's Tale that's unburnable,
oh,
which is like cool, but like it's also selling for like $500,000, and
right.
it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, what the fuck, like,
Yeah. Sure, normal people can afford that.
yeah, like this seems a lot more like it was crafted for one very particular tax bracket.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I have one more,
Okay.
and mine is a little dicey, I guess, but I do want to talk about this. Overly apologetic white people are uncomfortable.
I
And I'm gonna say, like, I noticed that like during like the Black Lives Matter protests, and like when like we were really bringing race to the forefront as like a nation, and like really like broadcasting like the protests, and like it was at the front of everybody's minds and stuff. Like, a lot of people really took it upon themselves to learn about like their origins, or like to say like, I'm white and I'm privileged, and like that's all great. Like, that's really great to have that kind of self-reflection. It also started to swing really, really hard into like this other place, though, where like it was like, no matter what, like, you're a racist if you're white, or like, you know what I mean? And I saw a lot of people like really fall hard into that like concept, and just be like, everything, like, my whole life is like engraved with like, or like instilled with like these racist like concepts and like philosophies, and like, yeah, that's all true for sure, dude, like, definitely. But you're not a racist, and like you don't have to get crazy about that. And so like, I feel like what we also saw in like all of this positivity was like a lot of people who swung really, really far into like saying like, I'm white, and like I need to be extra sensitive around you as somebody who's not entirely white, because I don't want to be a racist, and like I would like you to know that I'm not a racist. And then it's like, okay, but when you go that to that extreme, it's still segregating, right?
mm-hmm.
Because you're still putting up a very big wall between like what you are and what I am. And like, I don't need you to like apologize for like something that is not in your control, and it's not in my control. Like, yeah, do better for sure, but like you can't, I'm not going to blame like the past like few centuries on you. Like, and I just feel like that happened a lot. And I think that there's a lot of people who would definitely agree that like, maybe you just treat me like a human being, and not, no matter what your race is. Like, I think you maybe just want to be treated like a human being, and not be like, have your focal point be like your skin tone, or like your like ethnicity,
Yeah. So there's two things I have to say about that. The first is I 100% agree with you. Okay, I guess I have three things. And then during the Black Lives Matter protests and all of the racial upheaval, and focus on race, I noticed that all of my social media was polluted with the voices of people that were not Black or brown, and so Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And it was all populated with like these white people just talking about how they're not racist. And it's like, can you shut up for a second? And like,
Yeah,
really, this isn't about you. Like, can you step aside and let other people like express
have a
themselves and
voice.
have their voices? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is like the big thing for me. And then the second one is that, and this is kind of more of an older idea, right? That you can't be racist against white people because of the systematic oppression. So if you're like racist against white people, racist in quotes. It's not actually racism. It's a reaction to the systematic oppression that you've endured for generations. And I just want to say to that racism is racism, and the not just the myth of reverse racism, but the myth that you can't be racist against white people, because racism literally is like being like treating people differently or saying negative stereotypical things about them based on the color of your skin. And if you're saying those things about white people, guess what? That is racist.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I mean. Like, I think like it is like really great to reflect on yourself and reflect on like your past or whatever, and like kind of try to like identify your privilege and like identify where other people don't have those privileges. I think that's excellent. I think the most important thing to do moving forward once you've done that, though, is just to treat everybody the same, and to not have to put yourself exactly what you're saying in the forefront of being like, oh my God, I'm not racist. I'm a very woke white person. I'm very, you know what I mean? Because it's like, yeah, I don't give a shit, dude. Shut up. Like, I don't fucking think about you. You know what I mean? And like, I think that's another thing that like people really need to think about on a daily basis, is like how little like the social media age has made us all so entitled to our opinions and so entitled to like our like identities and all of these things, our egos and the way that the world perceives us. And it's like, I would like to remind everybody that like nobody fucking cares about you that much. Like people have lives and they're constantly just trying to get through them. And so like don't put yourself at the fucking forefront in like the equation of someone else's life. It's fucking weird. Like just do what the fuck you're gonna do and don't hurt anybody along the way. Like I don't understand why it's so hard.
Yeah, like checking your privilege isn't explicitly saying like, well, I'm not racist, or like, you know, checking your privilege is an internal thing. Like right now, like I know I'm prioritizing the voices of women in everything that I do because it's super important. Like we mentioned in another episode, like that when you are raised in the patriarchy, you look around and you notice most of your artifacts are produced by men, right? So I'm consciously trying to change that. I'm constantly aware of how marginalized people don't have access to education in the same ways. They're not necessarily prepared to go to college. So when I'm interacting with a white man in my classroom, like I check myself like, okay, would I be treating this person differently if they were Black, brown, or a woman? You know, like how would I, like, is the engagement that I'm having with them, am I being respectful to them in the same way that I would be respectful to like a woman? And that happens internally. It doesn't happen outwardly, and it's not a performative thing. Like I need to check my privilege, and so I'm going to stand differently, and I'm going to pretend to like listen in a way that I feel is intentional. Like that's all still performative. It's not actually hearing someone. It's not actually, you know, listening or engaging or changing your behavior in a meaningful way. It just is all very performative based on the idea that you don't want to be perceived as X. Like in my opinion, I wouldn't want to be perceived as sexist. But like, so don't do those things. Just show up as you are, hang out as you would. And then if you think you're in a situation where you might be privileging, you might be invoking like some sort of privilege or prejudice, you know, you can always like, don't bring it up. Don't be like, do you feel respected right now? Do you feel like I'm treating you differently? Yeah, that's really weird. Don't do that. But just show up like how you would. And if you do have questions about it, check yourself internally. Like, am I treating this person differently than I would if they were someone else?
Totally. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's all my hot takes.
Okay. I just want to do one more, and I have a list of, I have 3 more, but I'm just gonna do one, and it kind of goes off of this. It's nobody gives a fuck about your clothes.
Yeah. Yeah. Hardcore. That 100% I agree with. And that just kind of comes back to like what I was saying. Like we all got the ideas at some point, and I definitely blame like the social network that exists in the world now for this, but like we all really have like this idea of ourselves, right, that like we're fucking important because everybody is essentially a brand, especially like via social media, because you're constantly like promoting yourself like as a brand, whether or not like you're actually trying to make money. So like because of that, like the whole human perception of like how people view you is so skewed now, and it's ridiculous, and nobody gives a fuck about you, and you're not special, and you're not unique, and you're gonna die, you're just rotting organic matter just like everybody else. Shut up. You know what I mean? Like if you want to do some shit, do some shit. That's where I'm at with it, you know what I mean? Like you want to wear weird clothes, dude, like that's fine. No one's gonna shit on you for that. And like that was truer, I think, back in the day when like we were coming up. Like I definitely got in some fights, or got threatened a bunch for looking weird. But I feel like the world's a really different place now. And like I think a lot of this having to like, or like feeling oppressed by like fashion or something at this point is just fucking stupid. Like, are you kidding? Like we with like the last like basically like from the 60s up into like the 2000s, like fashion has been ridiculous. Like there's nothing that we haven't seen, you know?
Yeah, you definitely though don't need a uniform to be punk rock. I mean, I feel like maybe that's how, what do you think about, so you love crust punk. Crust punk
Mm,
is the most uniformy punk, like it has a uniform, you know? Do
for
you
sure.
feel like though you can be like
I
crusty
mean,
punky and not have the uniform?
I would very much argue that I don't wear the uniform at all. You know what
Yes.
I mean? I live in Hawaii. It's hot as shit. I can't wear fucking bullet belts and shit and die. That would be crazy. You know, like and like while like looking through these hot takes on like Reddit and stuff, I saw somebody mention that like, calling your like studded jacket like a battle vest and stuff like is the most fucking pretentious and just like ridiculous. Like, and I absolutely agree. Like, calm the fuck down, bro. Like, you ain't going into battle at all. And like, this is a very silly perception of your clothing. um yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's so, punk rock can be so ironic, you know what I mean? And I think it's because it is a culture and like in itself that like people love to assign rules to it, just like they love to assign rules to any culture. Unfortunately, the rules that get assigned are just so fucking stupid, you know what I mean? And then it kind of brings us full circle, because it's like you have all of these rules for something that's supposed to be about nonconformity. Now we've gone so far fucking left that we're just fucking right now, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just such a silly thing. But like especially with clothes, like, if I'm going to say anything about clothes, I am going to tell people like, I don't know, try not to support fast fashion.
Yeah.
All it does is fucking fill landfills. Cheaply made clothes, they're made by people who are being paid unfair labor wages. I mean, like, if you're gonna like really care about your fashion, that's what you should fucking care about. You know what I mean? Not like whether or not you look pretty punk or whatever. Like, I think identifying yourself as a punk solely based on clothes is the antithesis of what punk rock is about in the first place. So it's
Yeah, and
weird.
we've talked about the difference between punk fashion and punk like
Yeah, or
many
like punk
times.
attitude, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it's really easy to skim off the top of a subculture and call it like that. Like, to take the leather jackets and bad attitude of punk rock and call it punk rock, or to take fucking, I don't know, flowers and fucking happy faces and call it hippies. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
subcultures have a lot of depth, and that's the nice thing about them. There's a lot to explore, and that's why people get so into them in the first place. So like that, if you like want to participate in a subculture, like, then go for it. But like, don't think that you have to be like, I mean, what the fuck would be the point in that? Like, that's on, I don't know, that's stupid.
Yeah, when I was in high school, we had to do a whole bunch of tests like to graduate. And one of them was, part of one of the tests was to write an essay. And so everyone in the nation takes like the same test. And the essay part was like, what is the fashion that represents an American teenager? And it was such a weird question. But all of us were like, American teenagers are too diverse, first of all, to have one stereotypical outfit. And second of all, if you are going to grade us on picking one, it would be a white t-shirt and jeans. And it was stereotypical across any like subculture of music, you know, like, or performing art, because I went to a performing arts high school. Just that was what everyone said. And it's because literally no one gives a fuck. Like it's cool to compliment someone. Like if you feel like someone is wearing something nice, like, hey, nice dress. I love your pants. You look really great in that shirt, you know, but no one is anyone who is like, you're not punk because your hair isn't dyed, or you know, you're not doing something that is extreme in your clothing. Like I don't think that's cool.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said, it all kind of comes full circle. You get so far into rebellion that you become a fascist, and it just gets stupid. Like art isn't supposed to have rules, and so I think that's like, you know, probably the best place to leave that discussion is like, art isn't supposed to have rules, and you know, that's what this should be. This should be an artistic movement and not like a political like agenda, or like, you know. So
well, art can have a political agenda. It can be like, fuck capitalism for sure.
But art can have a political agenda, but like, you know, there's no way to tell someone how to make that statement.
Yeah. Cool. Well, hot takes are pretty much POW. POW means over, PAU. Do you have any band shout outs?
Honestly, I don't have any shout outs this week. I have been in transit and running around so much. I am, by the time this episode airs, we'll already have aired our interview with the Cupcake Girls, but I am excited for that to happen today. And if you guys haven't listened to that episode by the point where this episode drops, please go back and listen to it. It's very exciting.
Yes. And so I guess for bands, we went through like a lot of different bands trying to find lyrics for this episode. And I think I'm going to go with Imitate Me, which is a song by Pagan off their album Blackwash. And then for media shout outs, I'm going to shout out a book that's very influential to like the work that I do. It's called Data Feminism by Catherine D'Ignazio and Lauren F. Klein. And it's about how using a feminist lens to analyze like data science. So I'm a feminist data scientist, and it's about looking at the process from everything from data collection to data analysis to attributing credit for who is actually doing the work. So yeah, I recommend that anyone who's interested in data science, like, read this book.
Cool. Awesome. Well, episode 20. That's amazing. Thank you everybody for listening. You can check us out on our website at www.outonanislandpodcast.com. You can also find us on Instagram at not at Instagram at Out on an Island Podcast.
Yeah, and you can email us if you have any questions or comments or suggestions at Out on an Island.
Give us your hot takes.
Oh yeah, hot takes. Out on an Island podcast at gmail.com.
Cool. All right. Thanks everybody.
Thanks. Bye.